Welcome back to another exciting season of Rooted Wisdom. If you're new to the podcast, we uncover stories of Indian country's vibrant and growing food and agriculture sector. Today, we'll be talking to Carly Griffith Hotvedt, Executive Director of the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative and citizen of the Cherokee Nation. She will be telling us all about tribal nations' investment in rural America through food and agriculture, and how these investments benefit both Native and non-Natives alike. So welcome back, Carly. We're really glad to have you to talk to us about rural development and how Indian country contributions impact Native and non-Native communities in rural areas. To start, could you tell me a little bit about what rural development is and what does rural development and agriculture look like for Indian country?
Yeah, so when we're talking about rural development, just generally, it's, investment within the rural community and through the lens of economic development, but also through the lens of community infrastructure. And so when we're looking at it in like the capital R, capital D rural development through programs that USDA offers, it's a structured opportunity for different organizations, political subdivisions, and tribes especially to apply for funding support to make investments in infrastructure like transportation, like sanitation, like investment in food systems, and also investment in rural businesses. And so there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of flexibility within these rural development programs that can be beneficial for rural communities as a whole, especially those within Indian country.
Yeah, so with these successes, we've seen that Indian country has really grown in the agricultural sector since the last ag census. What investments is Indian country making in rural infrastructure, and how does that affect rural development?
One of the really great opportunities that exists within rural development is the Rural Business Development Grant. And there's a lot of flexibility for that, but the intent is to create better opportunities for rural businesses and rural entrepreneurs. And so that can look like investing in food systems. So maybe there's not a processing facility for the raw agricultural products that are available and coming out of, tribal communities or reservation areas. And a tribe may want to make an investment to not only, process from their own herds or from their own agricultural production, but also supporting tribal citizens and non-Native entrepreneurs within that processing facility to create more market development and more market opportunities for those entrepreneurs to be able to say, take a risk in a way that is more mitigated, in a way that creates additional opportunity. Maybe I don't want to do an aggregate sale. Maybe I want to make my own label and sell under my, own label. But I need some additional processing support to take that raw product to a finished product. Those are some examples of an investment like that. So also aggregation, warehousing, storage opportunities for those agriculture products. Those are some examples where tribes are taking a look at making those types of investments and creating additional opportunity for folks within their communities as well.
That seems like a really large impact. And you mentioned the business grant, and I know that sometimes the Indian country can have trouble accessing capital. So besides this grant, how's Indian country overcoming these challenges and increasing that credit access in the agriculture sector?
So within, there's a lot of different ways that Indian country, tribes, tribal entrepreneurs are taking a look at addressing access to credit. I think one of the big things that has been really helpful is the development of Native Community Development Finance Institutions, or CDFIs. Those CDFIs provide more flexible lending opportunities for folks that maybe traditional banks or lenders may not be as interested in supporting, or they may be a little bit outside of, what the parameters are of the projects or programs that they're looking to fund. And so that's created additional opportunity for people who maybe they don't even have a bank or a lender within their community, or maybe their rates are not competitive because of perceived risk working in Indian country, which may or may not be accurate. There's also opportunities that tribes can leverage through grant opportunities like with rural development to either do have project costs offset through a match opportunity or have their projects fully funded through certain grant funding opportunities through rural development. And so that's really exciting to see how fiscal support can make a huge difference towards the type of investments that are really important for rural economic development, especially within Indian country.
It seems like there's a lot of growth going on and a lot of agricultural opportunities for Indian country. So how does that make an impact on non-native producers or farmers or just the community in general?
Yeah, when we see an injection of dollars, whether they come from a tribe or whether they come from a federal government or whether they come from a state opportunity, those dollars generally don't just sit there. There's usually some sort of secondary or tertiary impact. So anytime that a tribe is making an investment in infrastructure, in a business, in economic development, in training programs or infrastructure, there's secondary impacts. There's jobs that are created from that or funded from that development. There is information being transferred. There is better access to opportunity that comes, especially when you're talking about it in the context of broadband. And so we see an impact not just for tribal citizens, not just for the tribal community, but also non-native folks that are able to benefit and leverage from that. Whether it's, maybe a non-native person that lives in a household with another native person that is able to get a job from one of these projects. We see that impacting that household, whether it is, development of, for example, broadband, and that opportunity is available to everybody in the area. That's another way that a non-native producer could benefit. In a very tangible example, tribes in Oklahoma have brought on meat processing facilities, and they're serving not only their own herds and not only the herds of tribal producers, but also processing for non-native producers at a market rate or sometimes below market rate. And so that creates additional opportunities and helps reduce opportunity cost within folks that are wanting to try new things that's more local to them. You don't have as big of a transportation cost. You're able to get access to a processing facility at a smaller volume versus other, more commercialized processing facilities that are really focused on hitting that bottom dollar and requiring larger volume to justify, setting aside that time or that capacity within the facility to process. And so it creates more market access, it creates more opportunity, it creates more flexibility, it creates more redundancy within your markets. And so when people are able to mitigate their risk because of more local opportunity, they're able to be more entrepreneurial, they're able to make more investments based off of those, initial investments that tribes are making in rural development. And it's really exciting to see how it kind of, the ripple effects that come from those types of decision making. And so when we see tribes making it a point to invest in food systems, to invest in rural development, to make these investments not only for the benefit of their citizens, but the broader community, those secondary and tertiary impacts really start to build. And so it's really exciting to see that happen.
I mean, and it seems like it even strengthens those regional food systems to be able to be more resilient should something happen. If you're buying local and you're producing local, then when something big impacts the global market, you might be able to survive that a little bit better because you've got this regional food system.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was definitely a lesson that a lot of us learned through the pandemic. We saw bottlenecks within our national food systems and national industry where processing occurred. And we all experienced the scarcity on the shelves, right? Indian country in many ways was impacted much more severely because of our more remote or more rural status. We're at the end of the line for transportation. And so, if those trucks can't justify hauling 2 pallets of food because that's all that's available to come, they're not going to send it out to us. And so when we see that built-in resiliency and redundancy to be able to absorb system shocks more locally and create domestic markets, especially at a regional and local level, it makes a huge deal when it comes to being sustainable and not bearing as much risk as an individual business owner, having to really look for ways to make money, be entrepreneurial, and grow your business, but being able to do it in a feasible, incremental manner rather than having to roll the dice on a big loan and make a big investment and hope it works out.
So not only are you a member of the Cherokee Nation, but you're also the executive director of IFAI, which is the Native Farm Bill Coalition's partner in policy and research. So what opportunities do you see in the new farm bill or marker bills that you're seeing for rural development as we move forward through this farm bill cycle?
So within the rural development title, the biggest opportunity that jumps out to me and what a lot of tribes have been asking for is just an increase in parity, including tribal governments and tribal organizations as eligible to participate in rural development programs. Previous iterations of rural development funding opportunities frequently required that a state be the entity to administer that program and left out tribes as having an opportunity to directly administer, or they required tribes to partner with other organizations in order to leverage those funding sources, whether it be a state or whether it be, another entity that was looking to apply for that award. And so parity is the primary consideration when it comes to increased access for opportunity for rural development programs.
So how does IFAI support Indian country in rural development?
We support Indian country in rural development by any time that a tribe reaches out and asks for help, we will come out and meet with them or hop on a call and help the tribal government identify what opportunities exist, what their goals are, and connect them with funding resources, whether it's federal or private, or even within their own budgets, to make those investments that they're looking to do in a way that's going to be feasible and applicable. And part of that includes, identifying rural development programs authorized by the Farm Bill that could be a good fit for the type of investments that they're looking to make in order to secure their own food sovereignty. A lot of tribes are recognizing that they have a responsibility to support Indigenous food producers and entrepreneurs, and looking for ways that they can leverage government resources within the tribe and also within the federal government to provide that support. We know that Indian country producers can be very prolific, and providing the support necessarily, whether it's individually that they access on their own, or whether it's a tribe stepping in to provide support in order to generate the type of development in an aggregate manner that the tribe wants to see happen, can really be impactful and make a huge difference. And what we do at IFAI is try to connect tribes with those resources and also provide them with some options and make them aware of some of the opportunities that may exist that they may not have thought of before, or have thought of but didn't see as feasible or applicable. And we hope to connect them with an opportunity to get them to where they want to be in as fast and as feasible a process as possible.
Well, Carly, we really appreciate you sharing with us about rural development and how it affects Indian country and how it affects rural America in general, and just provides such a great support for all of rural America. We can't wait to have you back on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was incredibly insightful to hear about how important rural development projects in Indian country are, and the impact tribal rural development has on the greater community. If you have any questions about how your tribe can benefit from any of the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative services, feel free to reach out to us via our website, www.indigenousfoodandag.com. This season, we will have even more episodes for you, exploring the different facets of agriculture in Indian country. Don't miss our next episode by making sure to follow our podcast on all your favorite platforms. Until next time, stay rooted in wisdom.